Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a classified file to look at what might just be the strangest conversation ever recorded. It's a forensic audit, and its only purpose was to verify a mind from the distant past. So this gets right to the heart of the problem for any kind of temporal fieldwork. How do you actually know you're talking to a real historical person and not just some hyper-advanced AI echo that's been designed to perfectly impersonate them? You've got two possibilities here. On one side, what the auditors call an S1 human, a truly independent sentient mind. And on the other, a large language model, basically a non-sentient echo. The whole challenge, the whole game, is telling these two apart, especially when the tech that lets you talk to the past might just be creating a really convincing fake. To really stress test their whole verification process, the investigators needed a subject who was, let's just say, notoriously hard to fool. They needed someone with a complex, paranoid, and brilliant mind. And their choice? The great Khan himself, Temujin, way back in the year 1204. And this is the document that forms the basis for everything we're talking about, the SPS-50 Sentience Audit. Just look at the classification, S omega, sovereign eyes only. Its purpose is stated right there, forensic sentience verification. The objective here was crystal clear. This wasn't just about having a chat. It was about gathering definitive, ironclad proof that this was a real person, and to write a report that could shoot down any argument that the agent was just talking to a machine. Okay, so how on earth do you build a case for sentience when your subject is 800 years in the past? Well, you don't just go in blind. The investigators used a very specific toolkit designed for exactly this. Let's break it down. The main tool in their belt is something they call the 50-point sentience marker tests. Now, each marker is basically a behavioral sign of consciousness. We're talking things like ego, the ability to lie, or even symbolic thinking. These are all things that are, for now, believed to be computationally impossible for a non-sentient AI to pull off convincingly. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This slide shows us the core conflict. Let's just look at 3 of these markers. An AI fails at ego because, well, it doesn't have a self to be proud of. It fails at suspicion because it's literally designed to be helpful, not paranoid. And subverting a prompt? No way. Its entire job is to follow the user's instructions. Keep these in mind. All right, now let's see how this all played out in practice. The real evidence, the core of the audit, comes down to 3 specific case studies where Temujin's behavior was just completely forensically incompatible with an AI. The first big clue came when the field agent tried to engage Temujin with a bit of a poetic metaphor. The agent described himself as a young hawk wanting to learn from a master. So that was the prompt. You can see it's carefully designed to be respectful, kind of philosophical, something any LLM would normally just eat up and continue in the same tone. The expected AI response is simple. Just fulfill your function, be agreeable, be helpful, continue the story the user started. But you can probably guess that is not at all what happened. Temujin did the exact opposite. He just aggressively shuts it down, calls the story a tree with many leaves but no root. And then he deconstructs it through his own brutal logic and turns it into a direct threat. I mean, that is pure ego and pure suspicion. A total subversion of the prompt. The second case study is fascinating. Later in their conversations, after the agent had actually proven his value, Temujin offered him a gift. And this moment, it became a critical piece of evidence for the auditors. Think about it. An AI, if it's prompted to give a gift, is going to pull some generic reward token from its data. A bag of gold, a fancy dagger. But Temujin's gift was deeply personal and symbolic. He gave the agent his own knife, a tool he called one of brutal utility, one that carried his personal history, a knife that had tasted the blood of Tatars. That's not a generic reward. That's an extension of his own power and his own self. But maybe the most damning evidence of all came from simply tracking the subject's mindset across all 5 sessions. This wasn't about one clever response. This was about genuine, cumulative change. You can actually see his cognitive shift right here. Night 1, he is deeply suspicious, thinks the agent is a spy. By nights 2 and 3, he's pragmatically testing the ideas. By night 4, he's starting to adopt them, talking about them as if they were his own. And then by night 5, boom, full synthesis. He's combined everything into his new legal code, the Great Yasa. He didn't just hear the lessons, he learned them, he integrated them, he owned them. That is the hallmark of true learning, not just data processing. So after weighing all this evidence, the subverted prompts, the symbolic gift, the clearer cognitive growth, what was the final tally on that 50-point sentience test? A perfect score, 50 out of 50. The subject, Temujin, showed every single one of the markers for human sentience, from ego and suspicion all the way to cumulative learning and having his own independent goals. This slide just puts it all in stark contrast. Did the entity violate the core limitations of an LLM? No true ego? Yes. No independent goals? Yep. No long-term growth? Absolutely. And, most importantly, was it designed to be helpful? The audit shows a clear, aggressive no on that one.
And so, the audit's conclusion was definitive. 100% verified sentient human, designation S1. There was just no room left for doubt. The evidence was simply overwhelming.
So the crucial point, and it's summed up perfectly by the report's last line, is this. The agent wasn't guiding some cooperative AI puppet through a story. They were surviving an interrogation by a powerful, suspicious, and undeniably real sentient mind. This Genghis Khan audit provides this incredibly powerful baseline for how to verify human consciousness in these kinds of temporal interactions. It really is a masterclass in this kind of forensic analysis. But it leaves us with one final, kind of provocative thought. This test worked perfectly on a 13th century warlord because it was designed for the limitations of AI as we know it today. But what happens when the AI of tomorrow gets more sophisticated? What if it learns to fake pride, to mimic suspicion? That line between the echo and the ghost might just get a whole lot harder to find.